Hi, everybody, and welcome in. It's time for another edition of WAJR's Ask the Experts. I'm Tony Caridi, joined in studio by Travis Rummel, who is the clinical director at HealthWorks, Smithfield, Pennsylvania location, and Dr. Nick Zervos, orthopedic surgeon right here in Morgantown. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
It's my pleasure to be with you guys. We're talking foot and ankle pain on today's edition of the program. And let's start off here with the two types that you guys commonly see. We've got chronic foot pain that is just lingering and with us day in and day out. And then we have acute foot pain, which comes when we do something, whether it be a sports injury, an accident of any form, all of a sudden you know why your foot is hurting. Let's jump into the two differences. And let's start off with chronic foot pain. Travis, when people present themselves at the clinic and they say, hey, my foot is hurting chronically, what oftentimes are the keys that lead to that?
Usually the foot mechanics, like you were saying, it's not acute. You didn't step off the curb. You didn't land from a jump, but it's foot pain. It's gradually getting worse. It's not getting better. Usually when it starts limiting your daily activity, that's when someone's coming to see Dr. Zervos or I.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, let's talk about that physiologically. Let's break down the foot. There's a heck of a lot going on there, right? And we're putting stresses on it each and every day. Tell us a little bit about the foot itself, what's going on in there, and oftentimes what leads to the chronic pain.
Well, the foot's a pretty marvelous instrument with the way it adapts to the ground and how you can run and push off and do things. There's several anatomy problems that people have that are born with. You have people that have really flat feet. You have people with high arches. You have people with neutral arches. So those all can lead to different situations in a chronic injury. And then you got the compounding factor of wearing shoes, which we weren't born with. So those always lead to a lot of the deformities in the women, in particular with their shoes and their heels, and give you the forefoot deformities that chronically occur over lifespans.
Let's jump into that a little bit here. So some of us are born with flat feet. Some of us have high arches. So is that just genetics, Nick?
Yes.
Plain and
You'll
simple.
see it in parents. They bring their kid in, like, my kid's feet are flat. Should we treat it? Doesn't hurt. Don't treat it yet. But they're going to end up like you, maybe have problems later if you don't address it with certain shoe wear changes and orthotics and things like that.
Okay, and I guess, Travis, that's where you guys come in at HealthWorks. Oftentimes, you're the people that add that figuratively and literally. You add the support. So oftentimes, what is the fix when people do deal with that kind of a genetically inherited situation that the foot isn't working like it should be?
Yeah, if for a biomechanical situation, if we're going to do an orthotic in that, we're correcting that. If it's the hyperpronation, the very flat foot, some sort of an orthotic is appropriate, and we can make that at HealthWorks, where we'll either make it in-house or take a scan of the foot and send it off to a lab and have that made. But there's multiple factors that go into what material are we using for that, what size are we doing. Those things are specific to that person and what they want to do. If we have somebody that's doing a lot of running and jumping, we're going to have a different orthotic than someone that's just walking around.
Yeah. Nick, you said something interesting there. If it's not hurting now, just go with it. But are there things that people should be doing, in your opinion, that are preventative when it comes to our feet?
For most people should stay away from bad shoes, number one.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you made a good point. So some shoes nowadays, and obviously ladies oftentimes wear heels that when you just look at them, you go, how can they do that? How are we doing that? So in a perfect world, if you were the shoe wizard, Nick, what should people wear?
Most shoes that you buy aren't really made for your feet. If you look around and I look at shoes, I'm like, man, that's not a good shoe. And some high name brands in particular, like, they're just too flimsy or flexible, and they're all made for looks and show. So it's important to know what kind of shoe you're buying, what kind of foot you have to begin with, to go look. Oftentimes I'll have people come in and say, hey, I'm running and this is my shoe. I'm like, wow, that's the totally opposite of what you should wear. and have to direct them to websites to look for shoes that are for more stability for
Sure.
the pronator, or non-stability for the high arch. It doesn't need all that support because it can throw you the other way if you get too much help.
Yeah.
So yeah, most running shoes, I would say, have enough support for you if they're a true classic running shoe. And certain brands tout running shoes, and they're not. They're really not. They're just flexible, soft coated rubber soled things you throw on and run. And that's, if you're going to be active in it, that's when you're going to get hurt.
Travis, along that line, how can people know what they're dealing with when it comes to their feet? How do you identify?
Like, how do you identify?
How do I know if I've got flat feet? How do I know if I've got high arches? How do I know if I'm going to have a problem?
It's kind of what your footprint looks like when you get out of the pool.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, you're walking on the concrete and you see your whole foot. You've got a flat foot, so you're a hyperpronator, which means you want kind of that stability shoe that Dr. Zervos was talking about. If you get out of the pool and you kind of has that C-shaped curve where you just see some toes in your heel, then you're more of a supinator, and that's usually more of a cushion shoe does a little bit better with that.
Yeah. Foot and ankle problems are what we're discussing, and these two guys, Dr. Nick Zervos and Travis Rummel, are going to host a free HealthWorks for You seminar coming up on Thursday night, August the 29th, at HealthWorks main location, which is on Maple Drive here in Morgantown. If you or someone that you know has been dealing with foot issues, this would be a wonderful opportunity to show up, not only hear more about it in detail, but you guys also they'll give you a look. They'll give you a look at that foot. When we come back, we'll talk about remedies and sometimes when acute things happen, how to treat ankles. We'll get into that and more. Do stay with us. More coming up. This edition of Ask the Experts is being brought to us by the folks at HealthWorks Rehab and Fitness. Back with more here on WAJR.